Welcome to Private Banking Strategies Podcast with Vance, Lowe, and Seth Hicks, your secret weapon to protect your assets and never have to start over financially again. Vance and Seth help high net worth individuals, families, business owners, and investors structure an asset-protected, tax-free fortress for their families. Learn how to keep what you earn and use the velocity of money to create your own private banking system. Join us on this journey as we explore the secret strategies of the rich and political elite and help you take total control of your financial security. Now, on to the show.
Hello, welcome to the Private Banking Strategies Podcast with Vance, Lowe, and Seth Hicks. This is a secret weapon to protect your assets and never have to start over again financially. Hey, Vance, how you doing?
Hello. It's nice to see you again, Seth. We've had a little bit of rocky road the last couple of weeks, and it's great to get back in the saddle and get another podcast for our listeners.
Likewise, yeah, absolutely. It's exciting. I mean, we've got so much content to share with folks that it's always, like trying to take a drink out of a fire hydrant, and us getting people information is always a joy. So today we're going to talk about financial planning versus financial self-reliance. And it's something that people don't often consider, but something that they should, and understand the differences and the pros and the cons. Financial planning is not financial self-reliance, and private banking strategies is not financial planning or simply an investment strategy. Correct?
Yeah, that's right. In my former life, when I was doing financial planning, I thought I was independent and working for the client, when in fact, once my eyes were open to private banking, I realized that I was a puppet of government and banks under a strict format or a limited format. And that's why this came out. Not only myself, but past financial planners who moved over to the private banking discovered that there was a limitless possibility in self-financing, self-reliance, or whatever else. And so we'd kind of like to go down a list and identify the two, simply because it seems like Saturday, especially on Sunday, you get all of these financial planning shows on the radio. We actually did one of those for about 2.5 years. It was very expensive, but, it lent a lot of credibility when, you might have some and you might not have some. Everybody thinks that if you're on the radio, then you must be good. And that's might not be the case. So yeah, let's go through this, and we'll talk to the audience a little bit about the differences, get both of our points of view, since we've got both a little bit of a different background. So Seth, why don't I start off with financial planning actually meets needs and goals only in what's called a limited format, or you take the information from a client and you build a format around what they can perform, versus what is self-reliance. How would self-reliance take that and make the difference?
Yeah, well, I think with our strategies, we're pursuing wants and dreams, and it's more based on limitless ideas, what's possible, and what can you build a bank for your family to create, and what type of legacy can you create generation after generation. And in prior podcasts, we've gone through illustrations that show legacy waterfall, where death benefits flow from, let's call it a grandfather to a son or a grandson, and how those stack up. So very different in that aspect, for sure.
Well, yeah, one of the things that really caught my eye in seeing that you don't have to be limited was the ability to get the money back, like banks. We live around banks, do everything, with banks. We try to take every advantage. We always complain that the banks aren't treating us right, which is correct, by the way. But the banks are doing something right that we or the public doesn't do. And I've got a theme that I've adopted here a last couple of weeks, Seth, and it's called we are switching people. We are teaching people and switching people from spending money to using money. And then we go in and we talk about what the difference is. When people realize they can get the money back and they can use that money over again, but get a brand new dollar's worth of product or services and then get the dollar back again, as well as getting new inflow of money from work, the whole world changes for them. And that's what this first one means. It's, the possibilities open up for us, and it's evident. No one thought that they couldn't, or they could live without spending principal. Everyone out there thinks, I got to spend my principal in order to survive. As soon as we teach them, no, you don't, all of a sudden their eyes open up, they smile, and now there's a world out there in front of them. And all of us, you, me, everyone said, I sure wish I knew about this 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
Okay. But it's still not too late. How much do you have to save? So here we're looking for a protocol, maybe to replace a person's income. And so based on assets and everything else, what do I have to do from today on to when I retire so that I can replace my income? One of the things that we've got to understand and know is that retirement is a government socialistic myth. And nobody likes to hear that. The public out there feel entitled, that I'm entitled to retire and try to live comfortably. Well, we don't have any of that today. People are out of work. They are trying to spend down their nest egg. They're, in all kinds of risky investments, trying to make up this goal, this gap, and it's not working because they're not following correct principles. So, but this is where this leads to, and it leads to, okay, we've got to invest money and put money at risk in order to reach your goals. So it's just based on what can you afford on a monthly basis to be able to do that. They're tying money up, they're putting money in accounts, and Seth, you and I have discovered that that's putting money to sleep. In other words, we're handing money over to someone else and letting them make all the profits, and they pay us an interest rate as little as they can get away with. So what would be the counter to that? What did we find is much more lucrative than that, minimizing requirements?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we talk about this, and it's one of the 7 pillars of private banking strategies is the velocity of money, putting it to work in an economy and getting a return and being able to use that dollar again and again, and optimizing those opportunities to effectively cycle your cash and have it growing inside your policy and also at work in an investment, and you've got some type of return on that investment. So we've had various opportunities like oil and gas opportunities. We've had real estate opportunities. We've had private hard money lending opportunities. And I think when you are able to create that velocity of money, it's not a matter of saving or squirreling. It really shows you how you can expand your banking system and your banking value.
Exactly. So another, I think, misleading, but what was focused on and what is focused on in financial planning is product-based investments. In other words, you need to get your money in one of these products, one of these investments, managed by someone else, managed by an expert, or this company or that company. And so you lose control of that money. You're hired a money manager or you've done this, and now they have that money and they're going to put it to work. Versus what? What's the next step here? Why is that not a good thing?
I think there's a lot of risk involved with that. I mean, clearly, and you've also got fees, you've also got no control. And most of our clients, and especially business owners and entrepreneurs, they they want control of their cash, and they want to be able to take the opportunities that come before them, not lock their money away in a prison, have liquidity, and have the ability to ultimately execute on the opportunities that come their way. And so I find using, other people to make your investment decisions is giving away your control, and it doesn't always turn out well.
It doesn't. The SEC, the FINRA, and all these government organizations step in and want to monitor and control everything. One of the hideous things that people need to understand is there's a lot of good investments out there that cannot be presented to the everyday family because they're not sophisticated enough. That's really exactly what it means. These folks cannot make an educated decision whether they should be in this or not, so you can't show them this. And that's totally regulated. Seth, one of the things that we found out that goes to the strategy orientation versus, buying products is we can put our own money to work and we can make the gains that they're making running their businesses or their portfolios or their hedge funds or whatever else. Let me give you a good example. If you bought out your remaining car payment, because I did this, and as we train the people, I go in and open up my books and show them exactly what I did over a lifetime. This guy can tell you guys how old I am. I spent over $500,000 buying new cars or, on other cars. I love cars. I like them, and way over $500,000. And working with the experts in the private banking field, I came up with a plan how to get that money back. And the way I did it was I had two vehicles. I had a Toyota Tacoma and an FJ Cruiser, kind of like four-wheel drives here. But anyway, those loans were with Bank of America, and I think they were approximately 8.5% interest at the time. When they got down to 10,000, they were both coming down right at the same point. I bought the note, so I had to come up with $10,000. I was paying for my automobiles, each one $500 a month or $1,000 for the two vehicles. It was really, the payment was like $495, and I just rounded it to 500 because I like even numbers. And at 8.5%. So, folks, here is an investment opportunity for a lending company. When they see they've got to come up with $10,000 to buy the debt, they can see that the payment is $500 a month, and they can see the interest is 8.5%. They're going to jump all over this opportunity. So, Seth, I'll put you on the hot seat for a little bit. Why are they so interested in that loan?
Because of the cash flow. The cash flow on the loan servicing that debt, it's a consistent monetary flow. It's not interest rate driven. I mean, as a banker,
wait a minute. Isn't it the interest rate? They're going to easily make 8.5%.
Right. That's not the total volume on the rate of return, as we both know, but it's the overall, cash flow on that, with that $10,000 outlay and what comes back to them over the term at $500 a month in 8% is a lot more than 8% on 10,000. Mm-hmm. And so it's cash flow, and it's the same thing that real estate investors look for, and the same thing that we talk about when people want to take out real estate debt. You've got a massive overall rate of return because of the cash flow.
So that's really important, folks. We've got to get off of chasing interest rates. Interest rates are out there for the common people to get off the mark. They chase interest rates and avoid looking at the real problem or the real money maker. Lending companies aren't in business, just to make interest rate. Yeah, we're going to take it because it is a risk equalizer. But let's just do the numbers here, just see how lucrative this is. If I use 10,000 and I get a volume of return, that's $6,000 per year. If I were to divide my annual volume rate of return by my money at work, that's a 60% volume rate of return. Is that high enough?
Right. Right.
Then I asked, how long would you like it to last? For me, it wasn't about getting the 10,000 back. It was about getting all the money back. And I stayed on that system for the first 10 of 20 years. I had a problem at 10 years because I ran out of debt to buy. And we all face that in this new strategy. But in 10 years with 2 vehicles, I got back my $500,000. That's all it took because of the volume rate of return plus the velocity. So velocity is something else. I don't know if we'll get into it today or not, but folks, when you control the money and when you put it to work, these are the returns you're going to get instead of the 8.5%.
Financial planning is product oriented and looking at how much you can save and meets needs and goals. That's the financial planning type of approach and paradigm, whereas the private banking strategies and financial self-reliance is what we're describing as in the latter part of our discussion.
So yeah, we're looking at opportunity cost loss. When we spend money, what is the opportunity that we could have put that money to the work for the rest of our life? What would it have earned? I used to show examples at kids. I used to do a lot of youth meetings and try to teach kids a little bit about money. And back in the day, you could go to a movie, get a pizza and a drink for $15. Now it's probably 30. I don't know. They came up with the numbers, and that's usually what they came up with. I said, do you have any idea if you took that $15 and put it to work for yourself at even 5% rate of return, what that would be at age 65? And people came up with a few numbers. Okay, when they understood that was over $3,000 to $6,000, just that amount. How many of you gonna, do a little bit of that? Pay yourself a little bit of this money. So it's the opportunity that we're looking for. We don't want to be limited. We need to have our assets. They need to be liquid so that we can, go after that opportunity and capture the reward.
And I think that's part of the traditional financial planning that focuses on 401ks and IRAs and 403bs, which are ultimately locking your money up in a prison. You don't have access to it until you hit an age requirement, and then you have to take it out before you reach another age requirement, and you're going to pay taxes on it no matter when you take it out. And if you take it out before that sweet spot, after you've reached 59 and a half and before you're 74, you're going to pay a lot of penalties. So I think that also helps to focus, because if you go to traditional wealth management, they are, financial planners, they'll probably try to incorporate 401ks and 403bs and IRAs and talk about tax deferment. And you're not paying any taxes now, but we discuss this all the time. Would you rather pay taxes on the seed or the harvest? Right?
Yeah, exactly. I had a thought a little earlier I wanted just to share with people about retirement. What we have been left without in our education system is the understanding of how to run your own private personal economy. Back in the day when this concept was in full swing in America, because we didn't have banks or branch banking, we had these life insurance contracts, and they would fund from there, self-finance back and forth. There's no such thing as retirement. Does any town have a retirement date? The answer is no. So you can't go out of production. It's what the banks want us to do, or government wants us to do. Number one, to keep control and to get what nest egg they haven't gotten yet. They want control of that money back. If you don't go out of production, we're seeing our clients who have a lifestyle change. I mean, there is a change. You're going to stop working from one thing and start doing what you want to do, hopefully. And you have X amount of dollars. And by the time you check off this planet, you'll probably have 3 times that amount. It won't be less. It'll be a lot more. And this is what, Seth, you were saying, that this is a perpetual plan. This is actually passed down from generation to generation. This is what the wealthy people do.
Right, exactly.
So, I think, like we're saying, the control, the institutional money is where people make the mistake. The herd mentality makes the huge mistake. Well, everybody's doing it, so it must be the right thing. My employer's going to do this. My employer's going to add X amount. Most people don't even add that up, by the way. They don't even understand that. They don't even add it up. They pour what they can into it. And yes, this is one thing that a lot of people won't do, is save money. So they set up one of these control situations. It forces them to put money in, and now they're under the control of that institution and, on government option, and faced with all those restrictions. So they're worse off than they were before. In over 40 years, I've never had a client or a person, when I asked, do you think you're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire or a higher tax? Always higher. Okay. And why are you doing the 401k? What advantage? Well, here's the thing, Seth, and it's funny. People would much rather fail financially with company than succeed alone. It's a proven fact. It blows me away, but they're more comfortable with their friends about failing. But we're failing together, so everything's okay, rather than succeeding alone.
Right. That's tragic, especially when it's so easy to make these changes.
Did that story feel like it was about you? Do you feel like you are generating a lot of revenue, but are not moving forward as fast as you would like? Do you feel you should be making more progress toward your financial goals? Do you feel stuck? Let us help you get unstuck. Are you ready to take action and get your own private bank? Please call Private Banking Strategies at 817-200-4777 or visit us at www.privatebankingstrategies.com.
The next thing for financial planning, and everybody was big on this, I think it's still big today, it's called macro or vacuum-based planning. It's portfolio planning, where they go in and they set up a wheel, so to speak, and say, okay, you got so much here, you got so much here, you got so much here, and a lot of them are opposites. But they're all investments with someone else. You've got to buy their stock, mutual fund, bond, whatever it is. And somebody's managing that portfolio. Well, this one is good now. That one's not so good. This one's not so good. Seth, I think we need to tell them, when you have a portfolio with a stockbroker or everything else, you've got to ask the correct questions. So we've got to let you know, everybody knows Warren Buffett. The guy just, is Midas touch. Everything he touches almost turns to gold because he does it correctly. He knows more about the company he's going to invest in than the company does itself. because he can tell that company where it's going to be in 10 years. They can't. The CFO, the CEO, the president, all the financial gurus come in, and he has a meeting with them, and he sits down and says, we want to do some investing because we think your company is going to go here. You've got this, we can leverage this and take it here. And he stops and he pauses and he says, every time, everyone's jaw is wide open. Where did you get this information? How do you know about this? Well, I did my homework. What everybody does is they look at the average rate of return, and that's fictitious. Let me give you a good example here. If I was a money manager for you and you gave me $100,000 to manage, the first year I double it. In year 2, I lose 50%. In year 3, I gain 25%. In year 4, I lose 12.5%. At the end of 4 years, now this is probably unfair to everybody, how much is in your account? If you're a good math wizard, you're going to be very close to $100,000. But
Right.
guess what I legally get to put in the prospectus for that 4 years? That fund averaged a 25% annual rate of return, because mathematically that's the number that comes up. And people will invest in that all day long, but they ask the wrong question. The correct question to ask, folks, and this will really throw your brokers in a tizzy, ask, what is the yield on this account? Yield means money put in the account that cannot be returned. They can't reverse it, cannot be reversed. Banks were very big at the beginning on yield, especially savings accounts. Everything's in your account and nothing can be taken out of your account. Life insurance is that way. It's all based on yield. Okay. Right. Everything all the profits, they could have a big profit 1 year and a loss the next year. Nothing comes out of your account. Everything's there. All the guarantees are there. So yield is important, because if you would have asked me, what's the yield on that 4 years? I would have had to say 0. Now, how likely are you going to be to buy that investment? Yeah. You can do that with stocks, bonds, mutual funds. They're going to tell you you can't. Well, we don't have any of that information. Well, then why would I want to make a decision on false information, on a mathematical number that doesn't equate to what I'm actually going to get?
Right.
That's one of the biggest faults and problems with financial planning.
Right.
So what's the counter to that, Seth?
Well, I think it's viewing the big picture and looking at your whole personal economy and focusing on yield, obviously, with your investments and where you've got your money at work. Also, there's elements of keeping control, having, the decision-making power, at being smart with your own decisions. But that's kind of a tangent. But I think, it's basically looking at a big picture rather than
small picture, right?
Small picture.
So here, the first thing I saw on this topic was I now own the debt. I woke up my money and I actually bought my debt. I bought my mortgages. I bought my automobiles. I bought everything I possibly could, other companies, and now I'm receiving all that third-party profit is coming into me. But guess what, Seth? And folks, it's totally tax-free. All the money I got back for my automobiles, that $500,000, totally income tax-free. Talk about a macro picture. This is wide open. You open this up to your extended family. Hey, we got a family bank. We're going to self-finance. We're going to charge a good interest rate. Interest rate's going to be turned around, and it's just going to multiply like crazy. So there's a good difference between micro and macro. Net worth is a measurement for financial planning. Net worth is what people go on. And you know what? That doesn't feed people.
Right.
If you have a net worth of that and you don't have control of that, that's meaningless.
Right.
It's great for the IRS because they can tax you on it. So what's the alternative?
Well, I think rather than managing or measuring rather in the total portfolio value and creating bigger portfolios, it's more about cash flow is the measurement, especially when you're buying debt and you've got cash flow streaming back into your banking system. So like you had mentioned, the more debt that you purchased on automobiles and real estate, the more cash flow you've got coming into your banking system. That's really the measurement.
I agree with that right off the bat. When I started this, I received the training from the very best people out there. R. Nelson Nash himself really tutored me on this concept. So I immediately sold my company, my shares in a company, and received quite a bit of money. And Nelson Nash, in his books and everything else, set up a process of funding your bank, funding your company, your lending company first, so it's profitable, and then start the money process coming out. Well, I figured right off the bat, if we used what's called a paid up additions rider, we could go back or do a big portion in single premium, which is cash valuable immediately, and I could start banking almost on day one. But I had all this cash back in my control. I was worried where I was going to put it. So I decided right now my monthly overhead for all my stuff back then, 20 years ago, was $10,000 a month. I could buy that debt. But did I want to wait 5 years to get that into my life insurance policy? So the math at $10,000 a month is $120,000 a year times 5. That's $600,000. Right. I don't think I could make that up had I waited. So I macro planned together. I bought the debt and I reversed the cash flow of $10,000 to inflow. That's right. Literally a $20,000 difference from depletion to addition every month, folks. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and Nelson describes that in his book with regards to drag versus lift, right? Or maybe he didn't describe it in his book, but he certainly taught the principle of an airplane heading into a headwind, which creates a drag or a shear down. And that's what that $10,000 going out and you losing control of it and you losing the ability to put it to work versus buying the debt, having that 10,000 coming in and creating lift and a tailwind that accelerates your wealth curve.
That's beautifully said, guys. Yeah, if any listeners out here, if you haven't ever read Nelson Nash's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, you need to. It's got good information in it. Well, let's go on. From that, on the financial planning side, we were always 100% oriented to retirement. Okay? And for the life of me, over 30 years of this, type of planning, I had to be able to answer the question, which is the fear question: when I retire, am I going to outlive my money? I don't care how much they had, that was the number one fear. When I retire, am I going to outlive my money? Because they admitted they're going out of production. They're not going to be creating any, more cash flow. And you can't do that. You can't run an economy that way. So it was always a reward not to work. So the opposite of that, Seth, is, what is this abundant freedom oriented?
Well, it's enjoy your life now and create a life that you want to live now and have predictable money for retirement, but you can still utilize and create that velocity that we're talking about and that return on the cash that you're putting to work in your private banking economy. And it's not stored up for some rainy day. You're able to actualize and realize it now.
So let me give a little picture on that. Picture a small town. There's a bank in town. You own the town, in essence. You own the bank in town. You own that town, but there's a lot of other stores and things and commerce going on. And this is what we're talking about in abundance. Everything is going on. Pretty soon, town has maneuvered itself so that it is attracting far more money coming into town than is leaving town. Okay? And when a town does that, it really prospers. And people can live on that. They can live the way they want to, do the things they want to do, but they're still operating their town. And that's what we're talking about here, folks. Switching from working from someone or even working from yourself, which is still for the government and the banks, to operating your own private system that creates no taxable events.
And that's a huge one right there, is that this growing and compounding without any taxable event, as you use your money, as you pull it out, as you buy the debt, and then as you ultimately take it out in retirement or as it's given to the next generation, there's no tax consequence there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another product of financial planning is everything lives and dies on interest. It's all about interest. And that's wrong. This is what got me so angry. I was very good at this. We were really good at this compared to the national money management firms all over America. We were really priding ourselves here. But this was the focus. It was all about interest rate returns. And this is not how wealth is built. This is how it's, interest rate doesn't pass on. And so, the alternative, and I want to say this a different way, Seth, and I want you maybe to explain it. It's from living only on interest to using and replacing principal.
Right. Well, what comes to mind right now is how interest rates have moved up, and it created like a housing freeze in a sense. I mean, people can't move out of the house that they have and buy an equivalent comparable home because of the interest rates. If they're locked in a mortgage rate that they had pinned at 3 or 4% over the past 5 years at all-time lows, and now they have to, and that's ticking up a point or 2 points, their mortgage payments for the same type of house will almost double. And so I think that we're going to see continued housing cooling, market cooling. And so when you're locked into that type of mentality where it's interest rate driven, you're very limited in what you can do. And the same thing would be for anything that you're going to finance, unless you're using your own financing entity. And then we're not interest rate driven. You're actually the banker, and you want an interest rate that fits within your means, but as high as possible. So, especially when it's tax free and coming back into your control. So you want to be able to live within your cash flow, within the money that you make, but within that, it's not an interest rate driven mentality.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Another philosophy of financial planning compared to what we do is money stays still. Literally, I learned that you put the money asleep. When you have to leave money in an account to earn an interest rate return, that money is asleep for you. It is not working for you. It's working for the individual who has the money. Okay? Versus what? What's the opposite of that, Seth?
Money moving and creating velocity, right?
Yeah. So this is why lending companies lend money, is to get this velocity and volume. Okay. The velocity means every time a dollar has absolutely no value until it moves, until it trades hands. Okay. And it's a touchdown. It goes up in the air and it touches down. And so the velocity means how many times can I get it to touch down in a year?
Right.
Because every time it touches down, it's going to create another dollar's worth of product and services. That's how money works. Okay. The volume then comes into, can I make that circle and keep adding more and more and more money and lending more and more money out there to increase my cash flow return, into me? That's the secret. That is the difference. An
Right.
age-old strategy that has never been updated versus the way America, and I believe in a higher maker, that, our country was really blessed with a strategy to make it so powerful and so strong, faster than any emerging company in history, based on this strategy. Dollars do only one job.
In
What
financial
does that
planning.
mean for financial planning? What does that
Yeah.
mean?
Well, I think that it's more of a scarcity, poverty type mentality, as saving for education and emergencies and retirement, and the someday type mentality, and always saving. And we talk about that in other podcasts about the fallacy of saving cash and buying everything cash, and how that is a flawed paradigm, a flawed model. Spending the dollar for one particular purpose, and then that purpose is met and your dollar's gone and you can't use it again. Whereas opposed to the private banking strategies paradigm, where we've got a much more robust application and use of the money. We're able to, like you said, use it for more than one thing, have multiple touchdowns for the same dollar in a year, and being able to use it for multiple and flexible purposes as opposed to one purpose only.
You see, in America, we don't even know we're slaves to the system. The banks have us so brainwashed in what we should do, and I called it, and I've called it this for a long time, get back to zero strategy. I practiced it. One of the cars when I first moved to Texas after I got married, and I was saved up for a car. I could buy a brand new Chevrolet I bought for $25,000. I went into the bank and said, give me a check. I'm going to go buy a car. So it took me a couple of years to save that up. I took the money and went and bought the car. Where does that leave me, Seth?
Back at zero.
Zero. But I got a new car, but
Right.
the car's going to wear out, isn't it?
Right.
So when people say to me, when they do this very same thing, well, I don't have car payments, I laugh and say, liar. You have to replace that car eventually, so you're either going to have to take more money out or whatever else. So the alternative is go in debt and then make payments, and then when you've got the car paid off, where does that leave you?
Back at
Zero. And a worn out car.
Right.
Okay. There's a better system, folks, rather than spending money, having to go back to work. I've done some calculations for a lot of people and cell phone businesses. It could be as much as 25 to 1 to replace a dollar that you spend if you have to go back out into the workplace using your car, your wear and tear, your time, making everybody else profit, paying Uncle Sam just to get the dollar back so you can spend it again.
Right.
Good definition of insanity.
In the financial planning paradigm, the planner is the expert. They have all the control, and you lose your autonomy and ability to make decisions that you know about.
And I found that a lot of people like that. I'm not smart enough to deal with this. I'm going to give it to someone else. And anybody can say they're a financial planner. Seth, you and I know in this banking world that internet, YouTube and everything else is just full of stuff, products that claim that they can do the infinite banking or whatever else. And I call it pornography. But anybody can say that. I had a scale that I would teach my clients, and I would prove it to them with my own expertise. On a scale of 1 to 10, a 1 doesn't even know what the topic is. A 10, there are no 10s. That guy walks on water. So 1 to 9, so to speak. A 5 is somebody who knows enough that can start using his expertise, to help other people and get paid a little bit. But he thinks the problem with the 5 is they think they're 7, 8s, and 9s. The 9 will tell you he's a 5. Okay? But he's the guy that the 8s and the 7s go to, for counsel and help and everything else, because he has the most time in and the most experience. That's what you're looking for. If you look at somebody who wants you to do this and that on a portfolio, you ask the individual, how much does he make? Life insurance agents out there, the average means for life insurance is less than $50,000 annual income. Okay. And these guys want to solve issues for, $500,000, and up dollars, you need this, that, or the other. To me, that's hypocritical. So here's the fresh air. What's the alternative to the financial planner being an expert, Seth?
Right. And is implementing your own private banking strategies where you are empowered as the banker. You make the decisions with investments that you're comfortable with, that you know about. For some people, that's real estate. For some people, that's widgets. For some people, that's, logistics. Another person, it may be automobiles. And they apply their trade expertise and empower themselves to manage their own financial kingdom, so to speak. And money can be simplified. It's not something that is overly complicated, that people should relinquish their control to someone or supposed guru, like you said, and then look back and go, wow, I should have never done that. They should take control of their own finances and implement strategies, like I said, that they're confident with. And so money is it can be demystified with private banking strategies, and that helps build financial confidence. Our clients have financial freedom, financial confidence, and control over their wealth.
What's really scary is that our clients know more about how money works than their professional brokers that they used to have and their financial planners. They still have not discovered how money works. They think they know, and that's the problem in America. And Nelson Nass's book describes that in what's called the arrival syndrome. Hey, I've been there, done that, I know all about that. Well, we all think we know something about money. We need to understand we don't. Not only is our next financial decision going to be wrong, it couldn't be worse wrong. It's 180 degrees wrong, because we're programmed to give our money back to the banks.
Right. So, I think it definitely clarifies the difference between a financial planning paradigm and what we do at Private Banking Strategies. And if folks want to learn more, you can find us at www.privatebankingstrategies.com. That's privatebankingstrategies.com. And on our website there, you'll be offered a free book that Vance and I wrote entitled What the Banks Don't Want You to Know. And that book highlights some of these issues and many more that act as a red pill to folks who are new to these ideas and these concepts. And also, we've got all of our podcasts there on the website that you can listen to for free. There's content on every type of subject matter that you could want to understand with private banking strategies. We've got other resources and materials and articles. And if you've done that, if you've read some of the emails that we send and these things are resonating with you, you've listened to some podcasts, you can schedule an exploratory call with Vance and ultimately create an 8-year plan to see how private banking strategies will work, particularly for you and your family.
Did that story feel like it was about you? Do you feel you should be making more progress toward your financial goals? Do you feel stuck? Let us help you get unstuck. Are you ready to take action and get your own private bank? Please call Private Banking Strategies at 817-200-4777 or visit us at www.privatebankingstrategies.com.
Thank you for listening to the Private Banking Strategies Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available.